Hello everyone, this is Tracey, and we're going to talk today about careers working with equines. And I'm out here in the barn, and we're going to have an interview time with someone whose career is probably one of the most important to me as a horse owner. So we're going to meet her and talk a little bit about what she does and how she helps our horses and me at the same time. We're going to talk with my personal farrier, because your horse stands on, walks, runs, and even sometimes sleeps on its feet. Hoof care is very important. Taking care of their hooves and having someone that really knows their job. Yes, I could probably file my horse's feet when they get a little bit too long in between visits. I don't know that I would want to do my own trimming. Definitely would not want to do my own horse shoes, because I think that's something that's specialized, a lot like an electrician or other occupations. I think that if they really know what they're doing, they can help your horse. Because let's say, for an example, I hurt my foot, so I started limping and walking a little bit differently. I would change the way that I walked, and maybe eventually my knee would hurt, or my hip, or my back, or something like that. So, same thing with your horse. If I didn't trim them or file them appropriately, maybe that would cause other problems in the way that they move or their physical gait. So, farriers are very important. So we're going to meet mine here in a couple of seconds. I'll introduce you to her. She is fantastic at what she does, and one of the other things that I really like about her is that she's a good communicator. And that's important to me because one of our horses, for example, Buster, is a little bit pigeon-toed, and she was able to communicate that to me and say, here's what I'm going to do to help him walk more straight and flat rather than kind of clumping and tripping over his feet. So she was able to explain that to me, what she was doing, and I totally noticed a difference in how he moved and rode. And I think being a good communicator is a quality that I look for when I'm looking for my farrier. So we're going to meet her here in a little bit. Be right back, and we'll talk more about her in a second. All right, everyone, I would like to introduce you to our personal favorite farrier. This is Val Poyer. She is here, and we are going to talk a little bit about the career of being a farrier. So, Val, could you explain the difference between a blacksmith and a farrier?
I can. So a blacksmith is a person who heats and moves metal and pounds on metal. So they can make horseshoes, but they can also make handrails or any kind of metal art. So a blacksmith is not necessarily a farrier, but a farrier always has to move metal and shape metal shoes to put on horses. So a farrier has to be a blacksmith. That's the difference. And historically, the blacksmith was the one taking care of horses in the old days when there were no vets. Yeah. And then the veterinary profession evolved and came about, and now farriers just do feet, and then the vets do the rest of the body of the horse.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So, Val, how long have you been a farrier then?
I am in my 7th year of practice. I started my business in 7 years ago, 2015.
Nice, nice. And what is your favorite thing about being a farrier? What do you like the best?
My favorite thing is dealing with horses and people. It really, I love teaching. I like educating. I also like working with my hands. This is a very, very physical job. You'll see me sweating profusely in the summer. And so it really combines dealing with people and dealing with horses, and I love the combination of those two things.
Awesome. And if you had to say that there's something you didn't like, is there anything you don't like about being a farrier, or anything about the work that you dislike?
I think that I get really sad when people have horses, but I'm not really giving them proper maintenance and care. You know, there are some folks out there who just have horses and just really don't care for them very, very well, and that just makes me very sad. And I can say something once or twice, but ultimately I won't work with people who don't commit themselves fully to their horses' foot care, because I just think it's not fair to the horse.
Absolutely. And I think that it is a big responsibility with any pet, regardless if it's a horse or a hamster, taking good quality care of that pet, or don't have them, I think is my theory. So I appreciate that too. So
Yeah.
awesome. So what kind of education would you need to become a farrier? What did you have to do?
So technically in the US, you can just hang your shingle tomorrow and say I'm a farrier, and there are no licensing requirements. Traditionally, farriery was taught by apprenticeship, but now there are horseshoeing schools, and there is actually a horseshoeing school in Minnesota, in Ramsey. The program is a 12-week program. And then I personally, it is very highly recommended to apprentice, and I apprenticed with 5 different farriers who practice in different areas of the sport. So one was a jumping horse farrier, one did dressage, the other one did very specialized saddlebreds, and et cetera, because I wanted to have a really well-rounded education.
That's a good idea.
I apprenticed with 5 different farriers, which meant that at first I just really didn't make much money at all, because they teach you, so you don't make money. You just work hard, and they teach you things, and then you build your clientele.
Nice. So learning education at a school plus the apprenticeship kind of gives a good, well-rounded. I think that's really great. Good experiences.
Yes.
So what characteristics would you say you or any other person would want if they were going to become a farrier? What personality traits or things like that do you think are important for somebody that is considering being a farrier?
Well, number one, being self-employed is not for everybody. You have to be very self-motivated. So that is a must.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to have organizational skills, and you need to love people, because I used to teach at the Minnesota School of Horseshoeing, and this is a little story. I would ask the kids why they wanted to be farriers, and invariably about once a year somebody would say, well, I don't really like to be around people, so I'm going to work with horses. To which I would say, horses don't have checkbooks.
Yes.
And so in order to be a farrier, you are dealing with people all the time. Farriers are, most of the hard problems are with people, not with horses. So you need to really like and enjoy working with people. You need to be strong physically and be committed to staying strong, because it is very, very physical. And you need to be have good customer service skills.
Absolutely.
And good business skills. I was in business for 25 years, so it was not a big transition for me to do my own accounting and use technology. And if you say you're going to be at your clients at noon, then you're at your clients at noon, or you can text message and say I'm running behind. But those are little details that make a big difference for people. Most farriers fail not because of their technical farrier skills, but because of lack of business skills and customer service skills.
That's interesting. I think that's great. And I want to mention Val is super good at communicating, whether it's like a problem or the way the horse moves. and I've spent a lot of time around horses. I'm still learning new things. I know Val taught me some new things, some different things, and then explains what she's doing, which I think is super cool. So I think that is a good quality to mention too. There we go.
The one thing that you don't need to be a farrier is you don't need to be a man.
Yay!
Women are only about 10% of the farrier profession,
Wow.
but they are over 50% of the students right now.
Wow.
So there's
50%
definitely,
to 10%, so 40% of them.
well, the farrier population, they haven't caught up yet, but
Okay.
the numbers are coming up for women.
Okay.
And obviously women don't have the upper body strength that men have. That's undeniable. But I have to use my smarts. I have to be smarter.
Right.
I have to use and practice very, very good horsemanship skills, especially with this beast right here.
Yeah, he's pretty wild. And
He's
that's, I
very
think, where your
wild.
tools come in, and using them rather than your brute strength, I think, is important.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you brought up being a female in a more dominated male industry. Did that affect your decision at all, or how has it affected your career moving forward from the education piece to now?
I actually used my business and customer service skills to differentiate myself from anybody else.
Mhm.
And so it didn't bother me. I was told that I was too old and too female to do this job, and all you need to do is tell me I can't do it to motivate me to do it.
Absolutely.
So I have a very successful practice, and
Yes.
I actually am not taking any new clients. I have full books.
So we're lucky. We're lucky that we found her and have her, so that's awesome. I think that's a really great response and determination to not let what people tell you affect your motivation and picking what you want to do and going for it. I think that's a good female strength. So,
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, that wraps up our part 1 of the 2-part series, an interview with a farrier with Val. And we covered lots of really cool stuff: the education and apprenticeship of being a farrier, the characteristics and the tools that you need as a person to become and to maintain your business as a farrier. Coming up next is going to be part 2, so make sure you subscribe and like this video as well as watching part 2, because that's going to include all of the physical tools that Val uses as a farrier, her truck. You can see the mobile unit that she has and all of her tools in it, as well as a demonstration of how to trim a horse. It's pretty cool. Make sure you watch part 2. See you soon.